Hey, we are live and back again with Writing Raven Universe. Hello, everybody. We've been gone for a little bit. Had a little bit of photography this weekend that I had to do, and of course, Janelle is moving, so we all been busy in our lives. Uh, Hopefully, we're gonna have some more shows coming up either on Thursday for sure. Sunday we have Ed Sauter and Kendra Sauter that we're gonna interview and ask for some tips from maybe perhaps from the publishing side and a little bit from the writing side again. So anyway, today I think my niece is going having a bad day out there. My little niece is crying. but so today we wanted to go over a little bit of emotions for characters and point of view, which is referred to as POV when you're writing. And so to start off with, I wanted to start off with the idea of emotions when you're writing is kind of also falls into showing and not telling. But as far as emotions, you want to keep away from labeling them, such as she was scared, or he was feeling angry, or he was feeling sad. All those you want to try to stay away from. And instead of labeling, you want to try to put make readers pretty much experience it. And so, in order to actually do that, you have to go through. From one of the books that I read, they suggested going through action, dialogue, sensations, and thoughts. Four different things for this particular book. So basically, anything that has to do with, let's say, if you're having fear, uh, let's say somebody there's a maybe a child about 8 years old hiding in a house because somebody broke into the house. They're hiding inside the closet, balled up into a ball. Maybe they have a sheet around them too, and they're clamping to the sheet. And in their mind, they're like, "What if he comes over here? What if he finds me in the closet?" All those are things that can show the fear. And that's one of the main things you want to do is always try to show those fears instead of labeling them. And again, that was through action, dialogue, bodily sensations, and thoughts from this particular book. I know Janelle has another one from one of her favorite authors that also goes through different ideas.
Wait.
Vivid, vivid emotions. There we go.
I'll get it here in a minute. I can't figure out how to turn this thing. There we go.
Yeah, it's kind of hard with these that kind of mirror. But yeah, so what does Rain Hall say about emotions?
Well, she's talking about body language, and you want to show it. You don't want to say it. You don't want to say Mary. Or Paul say Paul Paul was angry. You don't want to say Paul was angry. You want to say Paul slapped the table, or Paul threw something, or whatever. You want to show it in body language instead of saying what their emotion is. And then it also one of the things that Rain says too, which when she's talking about body language of the point of view character, you have to remember that your characters can't see themselves. You can see them, but they can't see themselves. So you can't say, like Will and I were talking a little bit earlier, and he was saying that one of his characters, he wrote something to the fact about her eyes turned red. Well, she doesn't know her eyes turned red because she can't see them. So he had to go back and rewrite that so that she could feel the burning sensation behind her eyes or whatever, knowing that was going to cause her eyes to turn red or whatever. And you can't say like things like, "Oh, Mary's face grew pale." Well, Mary she can't see it, so she just she doesn't know she's gone paler and lost all of her color. So you have to write it in a way that the character, the reader can see it, but at the same time, you can't have the character see it because she can't, or she can't.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I know that's kind of,
It's weird, but yeah, it's truly like if I had like it's like when people are eating cake and somebody points out, like if I'm eating a piece of cake and then somebody points out, hey, you have a piece of cake on the side of your lip, it's because I can't see myself, and the same instance when you're writing about a character. And this kind of goes into what I was kind of transition into, because also with emotion, also you have point of view. So you take into consideration your point of view. And with point of view, let's say like people write in first person point of view, which is using I and saying, I went to the kitchen, I was driving into town. What's a good example of that? I guess the Twilight books, they're in first person. So if Bella was eating cake and she had a smear on her side of the lip, there's no way that she can know that she has like a piece of cake on her lip or side of her mouth, unless Edward would say, hey, you got a piece of cake, or he just goes across the table and wipes it off her.
Yeah.
So because she can't see that, I mean, she doesn't have a mirror in front of her all the time. So that's one thing that.
If you stop and think about it, how many times have you been with somebody, maybe out to lunch or dinner or whatever, and they've gotten like some mustard or something, and they don't know they have the mustard, and you've leaned over and said, here, and took your napkin and, dabbed it off for them. I mean, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. And then, so that kind of leads into the idea with POV. So moving on from emotion, I wanted to link those two together just because emotion also can kind of control, well, not control, but I guess shows you filters through the point of view of the character, right? I wonder if it's a good example of that. For me, I hate winter. So just because I hate winter, I don't like snow. I had bad experiences driving in the snow and getting stuck in the snow, and I'm not generally a person that loves the cold weather. But then I have a friend, and she loves the snow. They love going out and playing in the snow, and they see the white snow and they're like looking at it as something happy and joyful, while I'm looking at it as something like, oh man, this is dreary and sad. Mm-hmm. They're complete opposite. So that is because I have a filter of snow that I have from experience of the past. I look at it differently than she does, because she hasn't probably experienced having like accidents in the snow or having bad things happen to her in the snow. So it's a happy, joyful experience for her compared to me. So that's my filter. That's my point of view. If I was in her head, it would be a different point of view. So leading that on, we have to also take that into consideration when we're writing characters. Mm-hmm. What is your character's backstory, and how does that affect them looking at a red rose? Did like something bad happen when they were gifted with a red rose in their backstory that makes them hate red roses nowadays? So maybe this guy has a girlfriend, he goes and gives her a bouquet of red roses, and all of a sudden she has a bad day, and she won't tell him, but he's trying to figure it out. But through her filters, red roses represent something else. Compared to his filter, it represents love, romance, or something else. To her, represents something that is bad, anchors to her past, and is just not an emotional trigger for being good. So that leading on, I did a little bit of notes, and this is going to go more on how I perceive POV. I think I had read somewhere there's about 26 different ways to write points of view for the character. So, but the most used is first person and maybe third person. but it actually breaks down into a little bit of different categories there. And let me bring this up, make sure I do it correctly. Here we go. So I wrote this. Let me put it in full screen. And I don't know if, can you see my cursor on this, Janelle?
Yes.
Or right here, you can see it?
It's on the second line where it says third person point of view, he, she.
Okay, so if I go over here.
Third line down, I guess, sorry.
There we go. Now, how about now? Is it on first person?
It's not moving. On my side, it's not moving.
Okay, maybe if I put it here.
Pardon me.
I could probably describe it. Okay, so this is the idea. Like I said, in I'm pretty sure Twilight has it in first person, where so first person point of view, like we said, they can't see if they got cake on their face, right? So this would be first person point of view, and it starts with the great I am, right? I am going to the store. I am doing this. I heard something upstairs and it was crawling downstairs and it was middle of the night. So all that has to do with immediacy, right? Immediacy has to deal with that. As soon as you're writing first person point of view, you're inside the person's skull. So basically everything that you do, you want to describe texture. If the person's in the bed, how do the sheets feel? What can they see? If they're in bed, mainly it's dark and they can only see the digital clock and the red lights or blue lights or whatever from the LEDs. All that is immediately, right? If they hear something, they live alone and they hear something upstairs, that could also jump into their body, how they're feeling inside their body. Maybe their hair prickles on the skin, a cold chill up their spine. So all that gets a connection with the readers. And the reason it gets that connection is because people, like, I can't jump into Janelle's skull. She can't jump into mine and figure out what I'm thinking. That's the way we are. We're all kind of, in a sense, trapped within our own skulls. So we can't really jump into other people's minds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when we're writing about language, first person point of view, sorry, just getting over this stuffy nose here. Language is also a intimate thing with characters because they either have a background and maybe they come from a different country or whatnot. So we immediately know how they speak, which gives us another connection. So we could say maybe if they're from Texas and have more of a Southern accent, they're like, well, damn, boy, what you doing over here today? You know, they have a drawl, a Southern drawl, or maybe there might be from, if they're from Ireland or Scotland or whatnot, maybe they have that accent and also dialect and different terms of how they speak. All that falls under the category of language. Range has to deal more with thoughts, memories, the background they had, right? Because we're first person point of view. Obviously, in one of those scenes, you're gonna write something that has to do with their character, be it in the background, be it maybe they had a bad car accident and they only drive like a certain car. Well, anyway, that all falls under range, and of course, their memories. What do they think about certain flowers? Like I said, maybe they hate red roses, and then they love white roses. They hate snow, they hate cold, but they love the summertime. They love the heat of the sun, going to the beach or whatever. That's all falls under the idea of range. But anyway, the whole overall idea behind this notes that I put in is this is my perspective on how I see it, because I've read so many books that define first person, third person, and omniscient in different ways. The way I define it is first person point of view is what I just explained, is more intimate and closer to the character. So basically, the camera is you have to kind of think of these POVs as the camera in the story, kind of like how you watch a movie. So the camera is pretty much the character, your main character, right? Everything that is seen and felt is through that character. Now there is for me a spectrum or a what do you call? I guess a range of how that camera is perceived. So for me, the very opposite end of first point person point of view is omniscient and omniscient, or how do you
Omniscient.
omniscient? Yeah, trying to speak through this. So omniscient basically is you pretty much are like the god of the story that hears all, sees all, feels all. You know all the thoughts. As I wrote down here, fully lets you move freely through time and space, gives more information in a smaller amount of time, and yes, even shows what multiple people are thinking within a scene. So, I'm trying to give an example. I think in Stephen King's It, there's a scene where the little boy is following the boat, but the paper boat that's kind of flowing on the river, on the that's going into the sewer. Well, eventually, I think that little paper sailboat disappears, and there's no way that any human could see it. So if there's no way that any human could see it, but we're still seeing the little boat float into that sewer, that means we have omniscient view. So basically, the author's actually telling you what's going on. And in between that, you have your third person point of view, he, she. And my personal favorite, third person limited or multiple. And I fall under multiple writing. Limited is almost the exact same thing as first person point of view, but instead of using I, you're using he, she. And you're never usually going to jump out of the person's skull. You're always going to be, just like I said, with first person point of view, you have the immediacy, the language, and the range. Everything is seen through that person's filters, through that person's lens. All the description, all the textures, all the feelings, exactly like first person point of view. Now, third person multiple is what I write. And this is what I write where I like to go into one POV character's head and then go into another POV character's head in order to, let's say, they've both experienced an event in the story, but they have different perspectives of how that event went down. So it kind of gives you an idea of diversity. And it helps you develop your main characters. Maybe you have certain characters that you want to really develop and give a little bit more of, movie time or story time. And you can also see the different conflicts in their minds. Maybe this person sees it as an evil act somebody did, and this person sees that the other person doing the evil act. It gives you two different perspectives. And the main thing you want to do also is remember to introduce your POVs early in the story. Maybe if you're going to go by scene or chapter, a lot of people like to go by chapter. They introduce different POV characters for different chapters in order not to confuse certain readers. Some readers can go along with it and whatnot, but a lot of times what I do is actually cut it into scenes and separate the scenes for different POVs. So when you have omniscient writing, you know everything, and you can actually do something what people call head hopping, because you can actually be writing the story. And it used to be in the 19th century, a lot of books from the 19th centuries did this a lot. So not only can you head hop from one character to another, but the author intrusion was pretty common back then. They would give their idea and their perspective and their opinions in these stories, and they'll be saying, "Well, Sue was stupid, and so she didn't really know what was going on." Well, Sue isn't gonna probably say that she's stupid, so it's pretty much the author calling the character stupid. Um, so there was a big distinction between those three, and that's why I say that third person actually falls under that spectrum between first person point of view and omniscient, because third person, a lot of people confuse it as having an omniscient um format, where a lot of times might be just multiple. The only thing with multiple point of view is that you still can't, like a person that, if you're writing from one character, they still can't see cake on their mouth. And if you jump over to like Steve from Sally, and Steve has ketchup on his mouth, you still can't see ketchup on his mouth, because the only thing is that it's still kind of limited to what they can see. It's still in their skull, but we're just jumping from one skull to the other. If you were writing omniscient, then you can say, oh, well, Steve had mustard on his lips, and Sally had a big clump of cake on the side of her lip, because it's omniscient, pretty much godly, see all, do all, move through time, space, whatever. Um, so that's my perspective on how POV falls. And that, like I said, it links through the emotion as well, because when you, like I said, first person point of view, third person point of view, you have more of a closer intimate, or what do you call it? Uh, I can't say that word because my nose gets plugged up. Intimacy between the characters, because it's closer to the character. So the camera is closer. Uh, for third person limited, first person point of view, and then you have kind of a idea of close third person, distant third person, or middle. Close third person, I think, would fall under the first or third person limited. Distant third person would move more in the scale, getting closer to omniscient. And then the middle is kind of where I fall through, where I every now and then I'll do what Stephen King does and actually write about a town. The town was cold and dry, and it was spooky at night, but nobody's there. There's no humans there. Everybody's asleep. So there's no way anybody's mind would be in. We wouldn't be in anybody's POV. So basically, that gives me kind of an omniscient format. Um, so I hope that was clear enough. I hope that people could follow that. I don't know. I don't know. What do you think, Janelle?
Yeah, I thought you did a very good job at explaining that. Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I didn't confuse anybody.
No, I think it was pretty clear.
And let me exit out of that. Well, that's what happens when you get sick. You forget what you're talking about. All right. What you're doing. So anyway, that was my perspective of POV. I know I went a little bit more in depth than usual, but that's actually what I've studied that a lot. So it's one of my stronger points when I write stories. So aside from that, do you have any other perspectives on that?
No, I think you covered everything pretty well. And the only thing I was adding was that you can use body language as well, not just thoughts or point of views, but action, body action.
And I wonder. Let me see. A lot of the ones that I got. Let me see if I can put this. I don't know if I can. I'm trying to put this website up. See if I can do it. If anybody wants to go more into depth of POV, emotions, and whatnot, there's a really good site. I can get it. I think it's this one. um, that kind of goes into in depth of a little bit more on how to discern the differences uh, in POV, because I know for new writers sometimes that can be confusing because certain books describe um, uh, uh, what do you call it? The difference between third person and omniscient, and there is quite a difference if you're trying to figure out how to do multiple POVs and and whatnot. And I mean, there's objective and subjective omniscient too.
The only thing I
Object-
can add to that is that I think it's important for you to decide what are you going to write third person omniscient, or what are you going to write, and decide that beforehand, because you get halfway through your book and,
oh
and you
yeah,
decide to change it. Typically, actually, what you're really going to do is you're going to end up you're going to toss it and rewrite the whole thing. So
yeah, that is very important. That's one of the main things that even a lot of books suggest that too. You have to know how you want your story to unfold through
yeah,
first person, third person limited, third person multiple, whatnot. Every time I write my stories, I usually know how I'm going to write it. For the most part, I think I've only had one story where I've had first person limited. All my other stories either involve two POV characters or multiple, and my novels usually involve at least six POV characters. So because I have so many different things happening at the same time that I need different POVs, so it's kind of more of a utility for me. I have to utilize that in order to show the readers what's going on over here while something is happening over here, not necessarily because I want a certain POV character. But I'm very careful at the POV character that I pick, just because um, I have to know. And just like how Janelle was talking about emotions, their body language, their thought process, their personality also has to show within that POV when you're inside their thoughts. Not everybody's going to think the same, so you have to color their filters, their lens, by their ideas, cognitions, and how they perceive the world. That's how they see it. The world is painted through their lens and how they view it, and their emotions toward it. So that way, I know I try to do that with my characters. If, for instance, Raven is very quiet, but she can get into her thoughts and think about a lot of things, while maybe an evil character is thinking, "Oh, this person is a demon. Oh, I gotta go and kill this person, and they don't know what they're doing. They're all crazy. They're all been hypnotized by this vampire." So he's thinking very irrationally, right? Raven, on the other hand, is like, well, what am I going to do in this situation? Okay, so we have to look at these different angles and then figure out a solution to the problem. So she's more logical.
she's analytic.
Exactly. So that right there gives you an idea on how to also write into POV. Here we go, head hopping right there. So yeah, this website, I don't know if you can see it. I'll just probably put a link into the bottom. So that really gives you a pretty good breakdown as well.
You can always write short stories in all these different what am I trying to say? The points of view, from where you want, if it's going to be third person or first person or omniscient or whatever. Write short stories and find out which one suits you better, which one you have an easier time writing, or which one you feel more comfortable writing.
Exactly. And I think a lot of my short stories that I do are not first person, but third person limited, which I said is like similar to first person, but instead you're using he, she instead of I. So yeah, I'll link this website for anybody who's more interested in looking over in-depth breakdown of POV and third person and first person.
Yeah.
And again, Rain Hall, who was our writer for what was that called? View
It's
or point of view?
and
Point of view or vivid emotions.
Vivid Emotion. Whoops, there. Vivid Emotions, Rain Hall or Rainey. I'm still not sure how she pronounces her name. I was hoping she might text me back. I sent her a text, but she didn't, unfortunately. She lives a long ways away, and she's probably very busy. So
Yeah. But yeah, it's those books are very good. She has a lot of range of subjects, or a wide range of subjects that she covers and does it very well, at least in my opinion. So yeah, that book, and I'll list this website in the YouTube channel. And I think that's it for now. I'm not sure about Thursday yet. I got to see if I had a reply from us author if we are going to have an interview. If for sure Sunday we have with again Ed Sauter and Kendra Sauter, which is the writer of this nifty book here, a Miss Hyde novella, or well now that's actually a not a novella but a collection of stories there. So. And that it's going to be it for me. Thanks for joining us. And we'll look forward to seeing you again later on.
bye.
Bye.
Remember, keep writing.
Oh, yes. Keep
The more you
writing.
write, the more you learn. Keep writing.
Yes.